It's time for Promoter 101, the podcast, hosted by Steiny.
Welcome to Promoter 101, Episode 9. I'm Dan Steinberg.
And I'm Luke Pierce.
Today we're recording live for the first time ever in front of a live audience. We're both very excited to be at the Aspen Live Conference. Later on, we're going to be joined by marketing experts from Nederlander Concerts, Jamie Loeb, AEG Live's Amy Morrison, Emporium Presents Aaron Reynolds. This is why we edit this shit normally.
Doing this
the one
live.
That works for me. And Tour Design's founder, Debra Ferguson, is in the house too to talk to us about where concert marketing is going in the modern world.
First, let's jump into the news here this week. Tuesday morning, the Recording Academy announced the 2017 Grammy nominations. Beyonce leads with 9 nominations, followed by Kanye West and Rihanna, who both split 8 nominations. We'll offer up our congrats to everybody who's up for a Grammy this year.
Especially Sergil Simpson, who was nominated for Album of the Year. Breaking through some serious boundaries with that one. Well done. He's up against Adele, Beyonce, Justin Bieber, and Drake. A star-studded lineup, Luke.
Yeah, for sure. I'm also particularly excited for Chance the Rapper, who got 7 nominations, including 4 out of the 5 best rap songs. So his story this year continues to grow. One of the first albums ever to chart with only streams. So I'll definitely be rooting for Chance on February 12th. Congress is sending the Better Online Ticket Sales, or BOTS Act, to the President's desk for signature. The act prohibits the use of bots to buy tickets on the primary market, which has been the MO for scalpers since basically the dawn of the internet. For more than a dozen states had similar laws already in place, but this raises it to a federal level. Dan, as a promoter, are you seeing this going to be as a real means to keep tickets out of scalpers' hands?
It really just comes down to smart people in the secondary market. They're going to find another way to beat the system. Scalpers never go away. They just keep evolving.
Yeah, and so much of that is definitely happening overseas, too. It's going to be really difficult to enforce. So I definitely agree with you that its effect is going to be limited.
I like when you agree with me.
That's you.
Oh, great. Oh. It's not.
Oh.
It really wasn't.
Oh, it really wasn't?
What is happening? Oh, shit, it is me. We don't get to edit this time. A quick congratulations to the 18 of the William Morris Endeavor's newest partners, including Brian Cohen, Brian Edelman, David Tamroff in LA, and Sherry Lewin in the Nashville office.
Pandora announced it's going to be launching its $10 per month all-you-can-eat on-demand listening service at the top of 2017 to the applause of many. Dan, are you going to be using it?
I'd really like to hear what Bob has to say about that, Mr. Lefsetz. He's waving me off. All right, well, I'll take a shot. Well, we'll get to hear more from him in a little while. Let's talk about Promoter 101 tweets, Luke.
Yeah, this is the part of our podcast where we break down Dan's musings and ramblings on Twitter. If you're not following Dan at The Jew on Twitter, I would highly recommend it for just entertainment value. But we'll break down some happenings in the music business this week through the hashtag Promoter 101 lens. So first up, Dan, you tweeted, when someone proudly name drops someone you have never heard of, hashtag Promoter 101.
Yeah, you can't know everybody in the industry. Sometimes you feel a little weird, like, oh, sorry, I didn't know that guy that you're trying to feel cool telling me you know. Sorry, dude.
How about this one? When a venue tries to rebook an act direct after you successfully promoted the show in the room the first time around.
I like that you picked that tweet because it happened to be your act. Sometimes venues are just green, and we do a show in the room. Sometimes this happened to be a secondary market in the middle of Idaho, and the Home Free did very well there. The room wanted them back. They didn't know who they were the first time. We sold it out, and they couldn't wait to get them back all of a sudden. But Luke pointed out that we took the risk, and we'll be bringing the act back when he's good and ready as a manager to route them back through their fucking market.
Something about loyalty, right?
Yeah, but haters are going to hate, and some people are just going to try and steal a winner when there's out there. So it goes both ways.
For sure. I don't think that's what would happen in that instance.
No, they were just a little green.
Yeah. When you challenge a date that has another one of your own holds in front of it, and you're torn on what show you want to see confirm, hashtag Promoter 101.
When it rains, it pours. In this case, Grand Rapids is a linchpin for holiday tours in the Midwest. So next year, we're going to have to just reroute through Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo to make everybody happy.
Does that mean that Shopkins got the date that we wanted?
Shopkins took Straight No Chasers date. Congratulations, Craig.
And why don't we hop to it? So this is the segment of our podcast where we're going to be interviewing these fine folks that are up here with us. We'll take a moment to introduce the who's of music marketing that's joining us up here today. Starting to my right here, Mr. Aaron Reynolds from Emporium Presents.
Tour Design's founder, Debra Ferguson, a.k.a. Fergie.
Down here at the end, the lovely Vice President of Marketing at Nederlander Concerts, Miss Jamie Loeb.
And a very special public appearance from the head of Concerts West and AEG Live, Amy Morrison, where she's going to dive into some of the great marketing they did on Desert Trip this year. A hand for all of our guests.
Let's kick it off with Fergie over here. Tour design's at the center of some just amazing tour creative that's out there, but today's day and age, it's not just an ad mat you're creating. This is something that's more key art, some concept that you guys have.
I was going to say, as a matter of fact, we don't even use the word ad mat anymore. Key art is the basis of when we start for any online banners, but we still have to get approval from the agent or manager or whatever point of contact I'm working with on what the basic look is, and then we can format it into any area that you want us to.
Jamie, is print so dead that the word ad mat doesn't exist anymore in Fergie's vocabulary?
I'd say in primary markets, yes, there are still some secondary and tertiaries that actually do read their local paper, but it's gone so far beyond just a print ad. Like, it's all the online, all street, billboards, everything. An ad mat is not just an ad anymore.
Once we get the design done, then we can reformat it to any size, shape, or area that you need it to be.
That's pretty impressive. You guys should go into business.
Yeah, well.
So as far as social media goes and the other lines, are you just starting there, Jamie? Is that where it's at now? It's not print, doesn't matter if you miss the deadline to break a show?
Generally speaking, that's correct. You have to be digital. You have to use your database, and email is still our number one ticket seller.
And sandwich boards, still using those?
No, because Angelo sold his company, and I don't like the people he sold it to.
Let's talk about budgets. Now, we particularly picked the people we have up here because they have major different levels that they're involved with. Aaron handles a lot of clubs and theaters and ballroom shows, whereas Jamie handles a lot of starting at ballroom shows, moving into theaters and the arenas. And Amy really does the major tours in the arenas and stadiums around the world, and some of those bands you might have heard of, like the Rolling Stones. So let's get an idea for budgets in general. What kind of money are you working with on a normal promotion? I know we're talking about ballpark range. You don't have to get too particular, but what are you starting with? Let's start with you, Aaron.
I mean, from a club level, you're dealing with like $750 to some of the theaters, like around $5,000 maybe. And I think for those, you obviously have to be very creative when you're dealing with those smaller shows and thinking of ways to get impact without spending your entire budget on one ad.
Okay, and that's, in most cases on your shows, Amy, you're going to spend more with tour designer Bill Young on assets alone than his entire budget for his show, right?
Likely, yeah. We're ordering more assets. Not only our TV spots, but custom social videos and, just many, many more outlets to feed the creative to.
Okay, and Jamie, what are you spending on ballpark in some of those mid-sized shows and theaters?
A budget could run anywhere between $10,000 to $25,000, depending on if it's a large theater. And then arenas can get up into 30, 40, 50, depending on the artist and depending on what you need to buy. TV is going to be more expensive than somebody that's strictly digital-minded. So it depends on the artist as well.
I would imagine it's a market you're playing, too, because you're based in Los Angeles. And I got to imagine buying LA media market's got to be a hell of a lot more expensive than Spokane, where you also do shows.
Very much so.
So how is the contrast when you're figuring out the marketing budget for Austin versus LA when you're maybe looking at the same act?
It's about knowing what the price points are going to be, knowing about where you need to go. Is it an artist that their digital is their entire world? So going to radio or going to TV isn't going to make any sense. You're just going to be dumping money for nothing. At that point, your budget's going to be less expensive, and it's likely digital is more kind of pretty even cost-wise from market to market because, it's the World Wide Web. So kind of what's going to cost you $500 Google campaign for Spokane is also going to be a $500 Google campaign for New York. It doesn't change in that way. It's more the terrestrial rates that fluctuate greatly.
Okay, and I imagine when talking about things like Justin Bieber and the Rolling Stones, the marketing budget has to be really diverse based on the venue size and the market. So that's got to be something you really got to work with guys like Megalyn on, I imagine.
Yeah, and ticket price plays a factor too, what your gross is, what you can spend on budgets and what you're trying to sell. But yeah, like Jamie said, $50,000, up to $75,000, depending on the market. And
even for a stadium show?
Stadium a little more.
So that can get into the 100,000 plus range?
Yeah, because you're reaching, you want to do a regional push for that, so you're going outside your main market.
And when you're
That's
dealing
where
with
it
the
gets
festivals, when you're dealing with the festivals, which your company owns 34 of, is there a much bigger marketing budget involved with those things?
If it's an established festival, not really much budget at all.
Because Coachella just goes, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, there's some money spent on branding and getting the experience out when the festival's happening. Or, if you're starting something from scratch like a panorama or a desert trip, you've definitely spent more money.
Okay, and what kind of ballpark were you working with on those?
I don't do panorama and any of the other festivals, and desert trip was extraordinary, so.
Nicely
It
played.
was a lot.
As marketers, how many times are you just getting shows just dumped in your lap? Something you've never seen before with no real background information, something you've never heard before. What's that process like for you?
All the time. I mean, every week I probably get an act that I don't necessarily know. My biggest thing is, obviously Google, but I try to push Dan to connect me with the artist management or agent who should know the act probably the best. And if I can pick their ear to figure out what they're all about, it's incredibly helpful.
I'm always available to him, too.
Yeah, it's not an infrequent occurrence. Hey, we confirmed this. What? What's that? And yeah, then you start doing your homework.
It was an exciting thing last week when my whole staff told me they didn't know what Shopkins was, and when I realized I was the only one with a daughter at home that was freaking out about it. So we had to remind them that they had something on their desk called Google, and they quickly realized it was just pages and pages of Wall Street Journal telling everybody it's the top toy in the world right now. Sometimes you forget that once we buy it, we have to explain what they're about to sell, and that's fair. Let's talk about getting creative and getting out of the box. Each of you are really well known for putting together a way to sell tickets when it just ain't moving. What are some of the things you guys do to get outside the box and sell tickets?
It can be everything from finding a third-party local store or local charity that has an affinity for either the artist or something that the artist, that's close to the artist's heart. It's about finding people with passion that want to help. You help them, they help you, everybody wins. But that's not always easy to do, and it takes a lot of legwork. It's a lot of legwork, but when it clicks, then it's amazing. But another thing is that sometimes it's just about explaining to people. We expect that the public is going to understand what we're trying to sell them, but sometimes it doesn't come across in the ad creative, it doesn't come across in the radio spot. The artist or the show hasn't done a very good job of telling people what they're going to see, and the experience that they're going to have. So I remember we had Woody Allen doing his quintet. Anyway, he was doing his jazz ensemble, and people weren't buying tickets because they didn't understand that he really plays, that you actually see him playing, and that he's a jazz aficionado.
Is he any good?
Yeah, he's good. So all we did is embedded a video from one of his shows for 30 seconds that just showed you what you were going to get, and tickets started to move.
What does a Woody Allen groupie look like?
Oh, I don't even want to. It's not pretty.
So, even on the bigger shows, like a Rolling Stones stadium show, we still have to sell, the seats way up in the top, and their last tour was called the Zip Code Tour. So we really went local and engaged each city and used the tongue and the zip code and really tried to come up with local things that would engage everyone and get them, just people talking about it and wanting to feel some ownership of it and some pride that the show was coming to their market.
Can you talk about the billboards and what you guys did with the tongue for each market to localize the excitement?
We did a teaser campaign. We put the tongue and a song lyric, and we did them all across the country. We even
With
got
no name, right? Just the tongue.
And we had people were talking. What's the tongue up? What are the Stones up to? What's going on? It's enough because of course we wanted people to know it was the Stones, but it was enough to get them wondering what was going on. We even got a little press out of it. We actually had, tried to get some press. Took photos. Had Getty do a little work for us. And then that rolled into the tour announcement. We also were running videos with the same theme, with the tongue and with just some, day in the life of the Rolling Stones. So we were capturing data through all of our social, so we were able to use that to build audiences when we made the announcement. We also ran a similar campaign in the movie theaters. So it was really great to have a whole integrated campaign across multiple media outlets.
How many club shows did they do in support of that?
Just the Echo. Or no, I guess we did the Echo was the first one. The Fonda was last go round.
So how hands-on is Mick Jagger? I mean, it's
get to
legend
work
that he
with
gets
Mick.
really into it, right? Like, is he on those calls with you?
In the beginning, he was. Definitely before, when we first began working with them.
It's got to be heavy, right? You don't want to let Mick down personally.
No. Definitely
Amy,
highlighted
what
my career.
role?
No, amazing. But he is. He looks at everything. I know he looks at all the deals. He's very, very involved on every level of it.
Are any of the other guys in the band that involved?
Not that I'm aware of, no. Nope.
Amazing, the Rolling Stones. That you started at Norman's in Colorado with Bill Bass doing the Circle Jerks and X, and now you do the Stones for the world.
Amazing, right?
So when you're going to other countries, South America, what have you, with the Stones, how are you dealing with that marketing from your desk in Los Angeles?
Each territory is really, really different. South America, my big challenge was sponsors and keeping a handle on all of that because that's how they fund their shows. So just managing all of some shows would have 4 or 5 local sponsors on them. So, otherwise it's just getting them out the materials, making sure they're, doing a real ad campaign and, doing what they should be doing. I think South America is the most interesting.
How so?
The whole sponsorship thing, it's really pretty wild. And just everything, you go to the stadium and sponsorship stuff's plastered all along, in the stadium, stuff we would never do here.
Now, when the sponsors get involved, does that change your world completely when creating assets?
Yeah, a little bit.
And is 9 times out of 10, are they involved from day one, or are you having to recreate everything to accommodate that?
It varies. And, sometimes we deal with when the agent or manager says we have a new sponsorship, we have to, scrap what we did and kind of appease them on different things. We're glad to do that. And sometimes that lends then to a little bit more creative vibe and juices that can change the whole feel of things. And again, broadcast TV, that's great, but then we can switch things up and make a whole different online campaign, depending on the band and the genre and what the promoters need to be utilized the most.
When we're waiting at 5 o'clock on deadline for images on a Friday and we can't get them yet, and you guys are telling us it's not approved, what's usually going on behind the scenes?
Me scrambling and just trying to get the appropriate people on the
Kittle
line.
hasn't done his job yet? Is
I
that
say,
what's going on over here?
Call Kittle. It's on the end of his signature, so I'm like, you can fucking call Kittle. I don't know.
Do you see that bus that just came by? No, what, seriously, is that approval, or is that literally design problems?
It's waiting on approval. No, it's waiting on approval. And, we can't send anything out until the agent or manager says, green light, boom. Because if I would...
It's the fucking stupidest thing in the world, and I'm going to speak from being an old school record company guy. We would have like a $35,000, Danny Clint shoot for Rage Against the Machine, and Brad would come in and go, "It sucks," right? And we would have to burn the photos, right? And the funny fucking thing about it is there's so many photos of any artist that's out there, right? That are all over the internet, that could be, that are better, that are, from even like Instagram or whatever, right? And the fact that they're so fucking precious with it to this day is a fucking joke.
Well, so much for our PG rating, Vince. Thanks. That was Vince Bannon for those in the cyber world that didn't hear him jump in, that injected himself, formerly of Getty Images.
It's live?
It's okay, don't worry about it. It's fine.
I'm on fucking TV! Hey, all you MOTHERFUCKERS out there.
Fuck me, Vince.
Hey, I was at Ticketmaster the other day on Hollywood Boulevard, and somebody dropped their cup.
Somebody take the batteries out of Vince. Luke, I don't know what you were worried about that we were doing this live here.
No concern.
Why don't you jump into pixels, buddy? Fuck me.
Hello.
I want to talk for a second. Over the last year, I feel like as a manager, I've been being sold data by about 70 different people across the board. And I feel like everybody today is an agency in some form. The New York Times, Ticketmaster, they're all surviving because of their agency businesses. Where are you guys seeing data driving your marketing? Are you seeing these services be more ubiquitously used amongst all the shows that you're doing? What's happening in that space right now?
I think data is huge, and if you're not using it, you're at a loss. For us, again, on the smaller shows, I don't have quite as much leeway, but simply Facebook advertising, I can narrow my custom audiences down so far to hit the people that I want that, I think it's really key. It's using the limited dollars I have in the right spot. And whether that's or email systems, and emails at a debate for some people, but I still think they're really important as part of the marketing strategy. So I think data is huge, especially from small shows all the way up. And you guys can speak more at a larger level, but
I think it is huge.
Jamie, can you define data a little bit? Not so much for the room, but for the people listening at home.
Data used to be just your email address, and that's all we could get from you. But now, because of cookies and because of your purchasing habits, we can know
Through the credit card companies.
and through the credit card companies, we can know who's got a car, who's married, what their income is, what their purchase history is, what they like to see, what they like to listen to. It's data.
kids, or
Yes.
how should we hit them?
Thank you for defining that. Go on.
No problem.
Say
Yeah.
information, that's all it is.
Yes.
It's the cute, four-letter word for saying fuck you, it's information.
Yes. It is information.
I'm going to ask everybody to raise their hand if you want to say anything. You're welcome to, but we got to get it on the mics for the podcast. It really, people can't hear you, so there's this pause at home. So just raise your hand. We'll get you in the conversation, Vince, and we'll make it happen. You're still not doing it.
Okay.
Fucking blow you if you're talking to the goddamn mic.
Hello? Is anybody out there?
Okay, back to data for a moment.
Drawing it back together here.
In my mind, there are a lot of companies that are jumping on the data bandwagon, and a lot of them aren't worth shit. They don't know what they're doing. They're trying to tell you that they know what you're doing, and they're trying to use a bunch of fancy words so that you think that they know more about it than you do. And what you need to do is find a reputable company, somebody that you trust is going to take care of you in navigating and mining all of the information, a la Geno-2. So it reminds me of the old SEO days when you had all these companies that were coming out saying, oh, I can maximize your SEO, and it's all black hat shit that doesn't work. And as soon as something rolls out, Google gets smart, they readjust their programming, and you're kicked to the curb again. So that's really what this is. You just have to do it smartly, and not everybody knows how to do it well.
And just to add to it, you need to remember that your data is the most important data.
Correct.
Anybody's that's trying to sell you other data or that they've got your audience, forget about it. The data that you have is the most important.
Now, you guys spend more than anybody else in the room on data. And I probably imagine Live Nation spends the next generation more than you do, but you guys invested quite a bit of money into figuring out how to use that. What kind of information are you guys able to pull out of that to make sure that you're not killing your list long term and having people opt out?
Well, I mean, it's knowing your audience. It's knowing what you're trying to sell, what is the right message, right audience, right creative, or right, really carefully targeting what you're doing. And it's beyond email. It's really like what Aaron was talking about, and building custom audiences, matching up your emails on your Facebook, maybe segmenting your emails if you've got a high roller and you want to sell them VIP packages, using the pixels that you've placed on an artist website to use that to track.
Well,
But I also think that it's a lot of trial and error. You just got to try the shit and see if it works. If people unsubscribe, if you send out an email or you send out a message that doesn't get a lot of traction, yes, Facebook will ding you because your post wasn't engaged with. But it's not the end of the world. Like the next post you do, yes, it won't be seen by as many people, but if those people that do see it engage, then ding, 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 you're right back up where you were before. If people unsubscribe, but then the next message that you have out there is a really great message, you can get those people back. You can get those people back and more. You just have to try.
I was just going to say that, and kind of going along with it. Same with Facebook. I mean, there's so many ad campaigns where I'll throw them up for a few days, watching them, seeing how they're spending, and I'll stop them if they're doing poorly, and I'll just try to figure out the next step to, reach that appropriate audience.
Which is the beauty of it. You can stop this stuff and start it up again and retarget.
So the Tom Petty tour is yours, right? It got announced today? Oh, it's
No.
We do the tour spots. It's Live Nation.
It's okay. They're a real company. So I would imagine, though, when you're rolling out something like a Bon Jovi or a Tom Petty or in the Stones, trying to figure out which list you're using to get at those fans versus rolling out a Green Day tour, you would be very selective of who you hit to protect those lists.
Absolutely, and it goes well beyond the email lists too. It's really about capturing the data through the pixel, like Roger Waters. We have a pixel on Roger Waters' website. We made teaser videos that we put out on social, which do serve twofold: to capture data to remarket to, and also to engage the audience and get them excited and start to sell them stuff in anticipation. We don't have the kind of budgets that the movies have, but think about what they do. They're out there a month, 2 months ahead of time getting people jazzed and excited about stuff. So, yeah.
I really got to hand it to you. I mean, you guys put together this amazing way to launch his tour. Desert Trip was a great promotion for that tour. Well done.
Thank you.
So let's talk about what you did with that. You took a brand that didn't exist. You took Coachella's field. You put 6 legendary acts, made them all their fonts the exact same size, and no logo and no Rolling Stone tongue, and they all seemed to get along, and everyone seemed to be happy. And now you have a brand that everyone's waiting for year 2 to be announced. How did you do that?
A testament to Paul Tillett for really making the, understanding and being transparent with all the bands on how we were going to market and how it would all look, and the no logos. Each band was super engaged and actually really supportive of all the creative we did. We went out of the normal production house world to put our creative together. We went actually we were looking for a movie trailer house to do that, and we found a couple of great places in LA that we worked with. And again, I mean, it's a formula we've done. Well, we did marketing in 17 cities in the US. We went internationally to 9 markets. We did a teaser campaign that the bands launched on their socials. We stopped a couple of big leaks that were going to come out, and in the end, it just did end up leaking. And we fortunately were prepared. Paul had done some great work with the LA Times so that the story that we wanted out there, rather than just a bunch of old, classic rock bands, that it could actually really tell the story of what this all meant and what, where they all came from and the time that represented. And we had fun with it. I mean, the team that I worked with and the whole Golden Voice team and our social team were just awesome. Everyone really just jumped in. And we went big. I mean, we went internationally. And, it's 6 of the greatest bands in the world. But, and we, 6, 3 plus 3, or whatever you want to do it. I mean, we just ended up at an 11. I mean, it was...
Do you consider that the greatest accomplishment of your marketing career, pulling off that branding?
It was pretty awesome. It was like nothing I've ever done before. I've never really worked on a big giant festival like that. I've worked with a number of the artists, but to put that all together was really, truly once in a lifetime. And from the beginning, we were focused on the fans. We wanted, once we beyond our expectations, we added the second weekend, that weekend when we went on sale. And from that day forward, our focus was really on the customer experience and making sure that they were kind of prepared to go out to the desert, which I guess goes back to what you're saying, we launched from nothing. Also to a demographic of people that have never gone to any of those festivals, don't know what the Coachella site is, don't have any idea what they were getting themselves into. And so we really tried to super serve them as well.
When do you announce the next season?
Like Jay said.
Had to take a shot. Okay, and you're not super involved with the other festivals, you said. It's more about the tours. So that was a new world for you marketing the festival.
Yes, absolutely.
What was different about that than an individual concert in your world?
Well, we were the brand from top to bottom. Desert Trip was the brand, not one artist or so. We managed the social page. We managed the website. That's the main difference.
Can you talk about the fact that you didn't really plan to have it named Desert Trip, and the media ran away with it, and it became Desert Trip? What did you think about on the inside?
Well, that or Oldchella. I mean, Desert Trip was a tossed around name. It sort of had the vibe of, and there was a while where we were thinking, well, maybe we don't need a name, but then we were like, well, then people are just going to name it, which they did end up doing. I think Oldchella became the more common name than Desert Trip. So,
on the initial rollout, we didn't use Desert Trip at the top.
No, we did not.
It was just the website you went to.
Yep.
Just use the band's name, so it's no bigger brand than that.
Yep, that was the idea, that it was really the bands would sell it.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and open it up to the room to the questions so we can mic you guys. But if anybody has a question, raise your hand. Hey, Vince raised his hand. Say your name and what you're from. It'll be really helpful.
Hi. My name is Jose Jimenez. Vince Bannon here. It was really interesting, a couple things that you said, Amy, and say my experience of going to Desert Trip, right? And saying that there's a certain audience for it, right? The thing is, I actually did see a lot of Coachella people there, right? And what's interesting is going to the hipster coffee shops that I frequent, like Phil's and such, when Bob and I need a coffee. The hipster kids, if I'm wearing any Desert Trip swag, right, they go off on me in the nicest way. They go, tell me about it, what it was, yada, yada, yada. I also think, interesting enough, I think Bowie dying, right, and numerous other people that have passed away, Prince, actually, shortly before that, and actually the weekend that you, probably about 2 weeks after you announced Desert Trip, is it that sort of thing also, right? And I'll say this to you, I have a 10-year-old that I'm like totally bruised from skiing with all day. I mean, like he loves everything from McCartney to, Chameleon Air to Run the Jewels to you name it, right? And with kids now carrying 40 million songs on them, any with their iPads or iPhones and all that, is it like you could? And I heard a lot of things saying you want to target because the information of like saying, okay, I want a Green Day audience, I want a Circle Jerk audience, I want the guy who dropped the trowel in front of a Ticketmaster audience. That this audience now is becoming so blended because they can go to listening to classic stuff, right, to listening to what they feel is new and young, right, and then everything in between. And it was interesting you brought up like, okay, well, Petty, you have to market to a Bon Jovi audience, right? I mean, I fucking hate Bon Jovi, right?
I think
but I love Tom Petty, right?
I think you misunderstoed that one. He was just listing it as
or Bon Jovi.
Or Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, Vince, there was a lot of parents. There was multi-generations came to Desert Trip, which was really, really neat to see.
My point is that with the with going after. My point is that there's maybe a bigger audience that you're missing on any of your shows at any given time. That like people, if they knew about them, might be interested in like even like taking their kids or kids going to those shows, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I'm trying to say.
We try, we try to make sure that everyone's aware of everything that we're doing. But what ends up, the targeting comes in when you're trying to push someone really hard. I'm not going, a Metallica fan can be a Willie Nelson fan. There's nothing wrong. So I'm not going to only exclusively, hit a specific list over and over and over again. I'm going to make sure that it's about how the message is delivered.
Anybody else have questions?
Bob. So Jamie, now this year that the Greek Theater was an open building, what were the marketing challenges you experienced? Because you only had part of the season as opposed to the whole season.
Well, we didn't roll out season subscriber program in the same way that we had before. And that was really the main difference as far on our side, because we couldn't offer up all of the shows to the Greek season. What we've turned that program into is a Nederlander concerts program, and where we offer our subscribers shows that we do in Santa Barbara, in San Diego, at the Greek Theater, at the Pantages, everywhere in Southern California now. People can, in our subscriber list, can purchase tickets to any one of those shows. So that had to mutate for us just because of the nature of the beast. But we have such a strong consumer base to market to that it didn't really change our marketing per se.
Questions in the room? Anybody? Awesome. All right, well, thank you guys so much for being here.
Hey, this is Wayne Forte from Entourage Talent in New York, and I'll be a guest on Promoter 101 at Polestar Live. Come on down and see us.